Hi everyone, welcome back. Here we have another little project for the channel. This is a Mitsubishi Pajero 2.8 diesel. This one has been off the road for many years and literally just sat and forgot about it, I think, for a long time. So I'm going to be doing a few videos on this vehicle showing the process of getting it back on the road. Now I've already put a fuel pump on it. So it sort of starts and runs, but there is a few issues with it. The previous owner was telling me that it suffers from flat batteries all the time, really. So it looks like it's either got a drain or a charging issue. He basically had to keep the battery on a trickle charge all the time to keep it charged up. And there's a few other bits and pieces. As it's been off the road a long time, it's going to want quite a bit of TLC, I think. But today in this video what we'll be doing is having a look at the battery issue, so at least we can sort of get it drivable, in a drivable condition, and then go from there. Right, so we're inside now. Let's start it up. Now I've had the battery on charge, so it should start easy enough. Yeah, it starts first turning the key, no problem there. Now we've got a lot of lights staying on. We've got anti-skid light, AT light, battery light is on constantly, water and fuel light is on. Now I think from memory, working on these sort of years ago when there was more of them about, when they weren't charging, when you had an alternator fault, they used to bring up pretty much all the lights on the dashboard, not just the battery light. So I think what we'll do is we'll get the multimeter on it and see how much voltage the alternator is putting out. It's going to be a bit of a project, this one. It's a bloody tip in here. Look at the mess. That's the roof spoiler. So that needs to go back on at some point. It also needs a bit of paint work. You can see the bonnet, it's in primer, so is the roof. But it runs well, runs really nicely, and it's low miles. It's 84,000 kilometres. So yeah, it's a good base. There's not many of these old things about now. Anyway, let's crack on. Right guys, so we've got the multimeter connected to it. Obviously it's running. It's been running for a couple of minutes, so the glow plug has stopped operating and things like that. And we're literally getting around about 12 volts out of it. Increasing there slightly, 12.2. So it's putting a slightest amount of charge in it. Let's see what happens when we put the lights on. Around about 12, so the alternator's doing something, but I would expect that to be up around 13 and a half, somewhere like that volts. But that's not enough voltage to sustain the battery while it's running. So I think that's probably why all the lights are up on the dashboard. So I've checked all the fuses on it and they seem good. Sorry guys, let me just turn this off. Checked all the fuses on it and they all seem good. There's a fuse box here, there's another one inside in the cab. So it looks like we're probably going to be taking that alternator off. If I can get a light. That's the alternator down there. So, I mean, it doesn't look too bad. We've got a bolt here at the top. There'll be another one underneath, which will be the hard one to do. But I'm thinking possibly the easiest way about this would be to take the fan and fan cowling out, and give us a bit more room, especially to get to that bottom bolt. So to do that, we're going to have to take the intercooler off, which is only 5–10mm bolts, and or shall we struggle and leave all that in? Nah, let's take that off, give us a bit more room. Okay, let's carry on. Okay, so now the intercooler's out of the way, you can see a little bit more. So I still think we'll take the fan and cowling off because it only seems to be a few bolts. They look like 12mm, 4 of those holding the fan. Don't think we have to take the radiator out completely and drain it. I think we could probably just get away with taking off the top hose and a little return pipe here, and we should be able to get in there, I think. Mainly just seems to be 10–12mm on it so far. Typical Japanese, so 10, 12, 14s. I'm sure there'll be a 14 somewhere, always is. Yeah, a lot of it's quite cruddy. I think all these clips look original, so I don't think it's had a lot of work done really in the past. So I guess that's a good thing. It's pretty low mileage, so I don't suppose it would have needed much. I'd be interested to see what's wrong with the alternator, whether that's just corroded up inside or not and it's stopping it from charging properly. We'll see. There we go, one cowling. Little tip for you guys. Makes it a lot easier. This little section on the bottom of it just unclips, so you can leave the fan in position while you pull it out. So it's a lot easier once this is out to undo the fan. So yeah, this little piece of plastic at the bottom, pull it out, and it gives you enough clearance to pull the cowling out past the fan. As you can see, it's still in that. So I think what we'll do now is we'll take that off out of the way, get those bolts out, and then we'll get onto the alternator. That's the fan out. Quite easy. They undone really well, those nuts. Weren't too rusty. Now we've got a lot more access down here. So what we're going to do first, I think, is I don't know if you can see that tensioner at the top. So loosen that 12, back off that nut a bit, or that bolt a bit, and see if we can get to the underneath. I think looks quite big, the one underneath. I'm not sure yet. I think it's probably a 14. But first thing, guys, disconnect the battery before you start messing about with the alternator. Don't want any sparks down there. Okay, that's the top bolt out. Okay, so I'm going to take this bracket off here just to give us a little bit more room. I think we're going to have to get that off just to pull the alternator up past it, this bracket. So we've got a 40mm bolt in there. That weighs a 14. Let's see what it'll undo. Maybe not got that. I don't need a different socket for that, I think. Right, let's try again. That's it. Okay, that's out of the way. Now let's see if we can move the alternator. It's still tight on that bottom bolt. So let's see if we can find out what's holding it behind there. Right. Feels like it's a 17mm bolt holding the bottom. I'm going to try and show it to you. So you can just about see it there. See the top of it? So that's all we're going to do next. And the alternator should come loose. Okay, so the bottom bolt is a bit tricky. I've had to take a bit more out. I've taken off the air intake pipe, which is pretty easy. And it just gives you a little bit more room down here. Now the bottom bolt, that goes through the alternator. Is restricted a bit by the water pipe, comes off the thermostat housing, so you can't really get your ratchet on it. Now I managed to do it with the spanner, but if it was super tight and you had to get a ratchet in there, you'd have to remove that pipe really. I didn't really want to disturb that in case it was a bit of a pain to get back on. So yeah, I've done mine with a spanner. I suppose if you had a different kind of spanner, you'd probably get in there easier, or a shallow, very shallow socket on a ratchet would do that. But otherwise, if you haven't got any of that, you're taking off that pipe. That's out. So basically I think that's probably going to be the hardest bit of the job, famous last words. But yeah, if that's the hardest bit, it's not a bad job. Right, well, typically, because I was cocky, that bolt will not come out at all. I have stripped all the belts off. You can see I've taken this pulley off as well, just to give me a bit better access. Oh, got that socket on there. Taking the airbox out of here, just to give me a bit more room. But basically what's happened is this bottom bolt here, this one, is corroded within here. So you've got this aluminium housing, it's like the timing chest of the engine. The bolt goes through it, out the other side, and through the alternator to the other side. It's corroded all the way through here, and this alternator, you can barely move it. So I've been spraying it with penetrating oil. I've had a lever on it, trying to work it backwards and forwards to free it off, and it's just not happening. I haven't got the right lever bars and things here really. So what I'm going to do is penetrate it up, leave it to soak, and come back to it another time. But there you go. Teach me for being cocky. But yeah, as long as we get that out, then the alternator will come off. But the problem is we've got to be a bit careful, because if we break this housing, then we are in trouble, because that means stripping the whole front of the engine down and changing that. So that's not really fun. So there's a few ways around it. I could either, I guess, I think I'd struggle to get a drill in there to drill a hole to allow the penetrating oil to get in over the bolt. Or we'll see. But I think I'll come back with various pry bars and have another go, try and push the bolt out through it. If I could get that, that's actually on a stop there. There. So if I could just get this to move back about a quarter of an inch, I could probably find a socket to fit this, and I could spin it and work it free. But I need to get it to come back first so it will actually turn, because at the moment that's stopping it. So yeah, we'll have to come back to that, guys. So we will be doing another video on the Pajero alternator removal, and I thought I was going to have an easy day. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.